Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Today we'll be hot stamping blank lures and we're gonna do this in a very easy and simple way so that anybody at home can do it themselves and you do not need a machine for this. And we're starting right now. So all the things you need is, you need a blank. Could be a swim bait, could be a crankbait, could be a trick bait. Whatever blank you want, you can hot stamp any blank this way. You need two of our easy hot stamping mats, which are available in my web shop. And you need some kind of not water-based primer or paint. You can use a regular primer paint as well, as long as it's not water-based. Why can it not be water-based? That is because heat is going to make that water-based primer crack and come off your blank. You don't want that, because you need your primer to be the bond that binds your foil and your lure together. So that's why we need to prime our lures before we start hot stamping them. And last but not least, you need a heat source. I like to use a clothing iron because it's really super easy. I bought this one for $6 or 60 crowns or 6 euros at a second-hand shop, which is really super cheap. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Or you can just grab the old lady's iron and tell her that she doesn't need to iron clothes anymore, because it's a waste of time anyway. We can do something much better with these things. Alright, first of all, we're gonna prime our lure, and I just hang this up on a steel wire so that I don't need to touch the lure anymore. And I'm gonna do this outside, so I don't do this inside, because these primers are not water-based. That means they are a lot more toxic than water-based paints. So keep that in mind, do it outside or in a well-ventilated area. But before you go out and start priming your lure, don't forget to cut your foil in the right size first, or else it will be a little bit difficult if you cannot touch your lure anymore to cut the foil in the right size or length. So now, according to this primer, if you read on the can, I have to wait 5 to 10 minutes between coats. Now that is the most important phase, because when your primer is ready for the next coat, that is the moment when it is tacky. And that is the very moment that we want to apply our foil. The best moment is when it's ready for the next layer of paint, when it's still a little bit tacky, because that tackiness is what we want. Now, finding the right temperature for your clothing iron is also very important. It has to be around 160 degrees Celsius. It can be a little warmer, but not any colder than that. Now, for my iron, that is on the wool stand, so that means it's for ironing wool. But if you're doubting what stand you need to use on your iron, you can just simply look it up on the internet and see what temperatures you have for certain types of fabric. And that is how you can determine in which stand you have to put your iron to get the right temperature. Also note, when I'm pressing down my mat, I am moving my hands and I'm applying pressure on several different places. And that is how I make sure that my foil has adhered everywhere on the lure. Now sometimes it might take some practice and a little bit of experimenting which kind of primer you use and what time frame you have before you can apply your foil. So your primer needs to be sticky but not wet anymore, because if it's wet, your foil can move around and you're gonna get uneven blotches in your foiling. So you want your primer to be quite dry but still a little bit sticky or tacky. That is the perfect moment to start hot stamping. Also another tip, the smaller or the less details your lure has, the easier. But a lure that has a little bit of a carved in scale pattern or a rough texture will adhere better to the foil. But after a little bit of practice and experimentation, you will find that right primer and a time window to use. And then your hot stamping will become better and better, and the results will be better too. Now, it's not a problem if the hot stamping failed a little bit, because you can just go over there with paint, or you can make a wound out of it too. If you missed a spot with a foil or there's no foil there, you can just make a wound out of it and make it look like it was meant to be that way. Alright guys, time to show the results. Now, this is a really big mackerel swim bait, which makes it really difficult to hot stamp by hand, because the bigger the bait, the more difficult it becomes to hot stamp them. But I think this one turned out pretty well. Looks pretty clean. Yeah, this side is really nice, and we can work with this to make a nice mackerel pattern. As you can see guys, I made a little mistake here. Here the paint was not really dry yet, and then by moving and pressing I actually fold up the foil and mix it a little bit with the paint, which gives it a little bit of a blotchy result. But we can just make a fish wound out of it or paint over it. We can hide that problem away, that is no problem at all. The other side. Turned out very clean too. I have a little fold here which I didn't manage to get out, but fish are not really gonna care, and once we paint over that, it's not even gonna be that visible anymore as well. For hot stamping just by hand, without using a machine, these results are pretty good and you can make really cool lures out of them. Now, as I said, the smaller you go, the easier it gets. You see that just gives a perfect result. It's almost all the way to the back as well, and almost to the belly, to the bottom as well. And that's just because this is a smaller lure. So smaller crankbaits, jerkbaits, all those kind of things are really super easy to foil by hand. And it gives really a perfect result. But also a little bigger jerkbait. No problem at all to foil. Now I already clear coated these, so these are ready for painting. And this is the small scale foil, and that really looks awesome. We also have a large scale foil, which is just mesmerizing. I just can't get enough of this. I also have a finished lure with this foil, and all I can say is that it looks amazing. It's really cool to use. So I foiled this swim bait with the same foil, and as you can see, those scales, that is just, I think it's mesmerizing. It's an awesome lure. It is so cool to work with these scales. We have these scales in two sizes. We have the bigger size and then we have one size smaller. So that's also very interesting to use on smaller swim baits, crankbaits, jerkbaits, any lure you want. I actually tried to do with spray glue. Now spray glue is a little thicker, and when you spray it on there, as you can see, it leaves a little bit more of a texture, and that texture actually affects the foil a lot. So if this is the effect you want to go for, you can just use a spray glue. As long as it's not water based, that spray glue is gonna grab all that foil and really stick it on the bait. Another really nice example where I used the scales, then I painted it red with Candy 2O blood red, and that is really cool. So with this video and all the effort that I put into this, I really hope that I opened the door and that anybody that wants to do hot stamping can just do it at home with minimal requirements and get really nice results. That's why I have spent weeks to find the perfect method to do this at home by just using your hands. As I said guys, a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat and a little bit of tears went into finding a way how you can hot stamp at home without the use of a machine so that anybody can do it. As always guys, I will leave a link in the description down below of this video, and this is where you will find the hot stamping foil and hot stamping mats, which will be available in my web shop together with a lot of other products. So make sure to check that out, and if you would buy anything there, you will be supporting me and the channel. If you got any questions about this subject, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching, have a nice day and see you next time. Bye bye.